clear elastic. A lot of patterns call for clear elastic. It doesn't really tell you what kind of clear elastic, and there are a lot of kinds out there. There's swimwear, there's the rubbery kind. The kind that we use in clothing for most of it is, and I'm going to pronounce this horribly wrong, Mobilin, I believe is how it's pronounced. I usually put it in the notions, the extra sewing supplies. I write out the brand name. But let me show you what it is. I get mine in a giant bag. This is 1,000 yards, 1/4 inch elastic. You can see how it moves. It's very drapey. It's not thick at all. I can't zoom in too far. The camera will get blurry. It's 1/4 inch, pretty stretchy. Comes right back. It's kind of like the stuff that you'll find on dresses and tops in the store where they hang it on, they have it in the shoulders and it gets hung on to the hangers so that the top stays up. So you'll find clear elastic anywhere you need stability. If you're making a sweater, you might find it in shoulder seams. If you are making a neckline where the neckband is doesn't have a lot of recovery, and so you have to lengthen it to fit, you can use elastic to stabilize it so that it doesn't get all stretched out and weird. It's often found in straps to help keep them from getting all stretched out and offer support. So I'm going to show you how to apply clear elastic in almost any situation. There are lots of applications for clear elastic. Again, the clear elastic I'm using is very light, very flexible. It is not a thick, heavy anything. This is for stabilizing seams. It helps to keep bindings from stretching out too much, tops of waistbands, necklines if you're using something that does not have any or very little recovery. Same with shoulder seams on sweaters. That is its main function. So I'm going to show you a couple of instances where you'd want to use clear elastic. This is the binding, a double fold binding that I was using in a previous video. When you are adding clear elastic to a binding, you want to add it onto the seam allowance that is going to be encased. So you can, with double fold binding, you really can add it on either side. I like to do it along the binding side. So this, you're going to stitch it along here, only on the seam allowance. So we're going to change it to this and we're going to stitch it on right here. Now when you add your clear elastic, you don't want to stretch it at all. So as you're sewing, and I'm going to show you how, you're still going to stretch your binding to match your garment. You're not stretching your garment and you are not stretching your clear elastic. I use a little bit of Wonder Tape at the beginning to hold it while I get my stitches started. And I'm going to show you how that's done. So I just bring my whole bag of clear elastic with me. I've got a tail out. So you're not measuring this. I'm just kind of going by feel here. So I have a piece of Wonder Tape at the end because it helps to get the clear elastic started. You know, if you can actually get it on without it getting caught under your needle. So I secure it there at the end. Like that. So, and I still have my lightning bolt stitch because that's my favorite straight stretch stitch. So as you can see, I'm going to need to stretch the binding slightly in order for it to still fit the garment. Do not stretch the garment. It will not help you. So if you stretch it out and you place your elastic firmly, give yourself a couple of inches. Sometimes it takes a minute to get started there. There we go. So you're just going to secure it to the string allowance. Reposition, set firmly, continue. As I get to the end, I will trim it and finish off. So then when I go to do my binding, either single or double fold, the elastic will be encased in the seam allowance. That's why binding is a little different, because you are not cutting off the seam allowance, so you can just place your clear elastic generally in the center. If you're doing a neckband, a shoulder seam, a waistband, something like that, where you're most likely going to be serging, it's a little bit different, and I will show you that next. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit. In the previous example, I was showing you how to place clear elastic onto a seam and to do it while you are stretching the binding. That same process would be for if you were doing a neckband or anything else where you needed to stretch the binding or the band to match the garment. So something like a waistband, for example, or if you were adding clear elastic to the seam, shoulder seam. You're not stretching anything. You are doing a one-to-one around the top. It is for stabilization only, to make sure that nothing gets stretched out. So you can do this in 2 steps. You can serge first, and it takes off the seam allowance, and then attach your clear elastic using a zigzag or a lightning bolt onto the serged part, or sewn, whichever. Or if you have a bit of practice and skill, you can do it at once. The hardest part with this is that you still have to take your seam allowance into account. So this is only 1/4 inch. So we have to make sure that we are not cutting the elastic off as we serge. That's the tricky part. And I am using a microfiber, which is probably not the best for examples because it likes to stick and be very weird, but I'm going to try and show you how to do this. So I'm using Wonder Tape again to hold the beginning. It's just easier to get it under your foot, no matter if you're using your regular machine or whichever. So, okay. So if you can see what I'm doing, I'm laying the elastic down. So this is this part of the seam allowance that's going to be cut off, and this is the part of the seam allowance that will be involved into the serger. I am not stretching either. Again, this is for stabilization purposes. So you are not stretching either thing because you do not want it to. You want it to be exactly the same. And then you continue all the way around. And then you can see, actually you probably can't see because that's in the way. Hold on. You can see here. Along here, that it is actually encased into the serging. That's the most common way when you are trying to do a waistband or a shoulder seam or something where you want the clear elastic to be completely encased into the stitches. If you are doing it on a neckband or some other type that you are going to top stitch, you want to make sure that you put it on the back of the seam. That's all there is to it. It's really not difficult. You can do it in 2 steps, where you sew your seam first and then you add your clear elastic, or if you're serging and you want to do it in 1 step and you have the practice and the skill level to do it, you absolutely can go right ahead and do it in 1 step. I hope this was helpful for you, and you will go on to conquer the world of clear elastic.